Today, we're talking about using your VA home loan benefits while going to school. So, if you're thinking about going to school, transitioning from the service, going into school, or already attending, today we're going to talk about how you can leverage your VA home loan because it is a powerful tool that lets you do no money down, no private mortgage insurance, competitive rates, and if you're in college, you could probably get some other people to live with you and offset your mortgage payment and potentially live mortgage free. I think the challenge a lot of times for veterans is understanding eligibility and qualification, right? Eligibility is you have your VA home loan. Qualification is, well, how do you actually qualify to purchase it, right? From credit. For a lot of veterans, credit isn't the issue. It's going to be income and how that really works when using a VA home loan. So that's what we're going to primarily cover today throughout the entire video. If you guys have questions about using the VA loan while going to school, drop a comment below, hit the like and subscribe button, get more content like this. So the first thing we're going to talk about is probably the most common question I get is, hey, I received BAH. I want to use it to qualify for my VA home loan. So first off, the VA specifically says that housing for school benefits do not count toward for the ability to purchase a property. So your BAH that you're receiving if you're using your GI Bill, that income is not going to be used for qualifying for a mortgage because it is temporary, but just flat out, they just won't use it. Now, if you're on active duty while attending school, then you can use that money because you're on active duty, right? You're not using just the BAH portion. That's just like, hey, you're out of the service and you're using the benefit. But the thing that you also want to be aware of is what income can you use while you're doing this? And everyone's financial situation is very different. So if you guys want to schedule a call with us, it's in the description below, and I'll also put it on the top comment. That way we can go through everyone's situation individually. So some veterans are going to school and they also work full time. So if you're in a full time position, typically, they're looking for that 2-year mark, but plenty of exceptions to that. Don't disqualify yourself. You can have 6-month job gap if you went through some type of training program, and let's say you were unemployed for a year and a half or a year and 9 months, but went through a 2-month training program. Let's say at like most common one I see is like if you go through like a utilities program. Depending on where you're at, they have all different types of like a power company, and they'll train you and then they put you on the job. So you finish that training, you have your certificate, you start the new job. That's one way to go around that 2-year requirement. And also that kind of leads from like, how do you do that when transitioning from from school to work? Because that can be a little bit tricky. So that's where let's say you've been in for 3.5 years getting your bachelor's degree, and you all of a sudden get a job offer letter. As long as it's non-contingent, then you're actually able to use that income to qualify for purchasing a property, even though you haven't started that job. Now, the trick to that is you have to have enough assets, reserves, basically, to be able to cover those months that you're not getting an income yet for. Which your BAH you can use for reserve purposes, so there's some positive news around that. And it's a way that you can leverage the VA home loan. But again, plenty of exceptions on full-time work. You got to talk with somebody to go through that. Now, when we talk about, let's talk about part-time work. That work is you're going to have to receive it for 2 years, right? So sometimes veterans transitioning from active duty and they're like, hey, I'm going to go right into school, but they want to be able to do some house hacks like this. It can get a little bit tricky. So as long as you could verify that, 2 years of part-time work, then you can use that as long as it's in somewhat the same line of business. Now, when it comes to your Social Security and your pension, that income can be used right away to qualify for a VA home loan. And like for Social Security, if it's tax-free, a lender can actually gross it up, meaning they give you more money by 25%. So, in an example, if you got $1,000 coming in from Social Security, a lender is going to qualify you with $1,250 because that's 25% of the $1,000. Now, this same thing applies to your VA disability, and a lot of veterans, I did a video recently around that. is you can use just your disability income to qualify for a VA home loan, even purchase a multifamily property. It just really depends on your financial picture and what you're trying to do with that. So definitely talk with the lender for that. And also a lot of benefits with VA disability, depending on where you're at. You don't have to pay property taxes. You don't pay a VA funding fee. So all that is rainbows and sunshine, but you just got to know what that state is offering you. Now let's talk about a very hidden thing that I would say 99.9% of you don't realize is that when you use the VA home loan, you can solely use the spouse's income to qualify. So veteran, let's say they collect service-connected disability, or they're in school full time, and we can't use BAH, and they don't have any income. Well, if the spouse is gainfully employed, you can actually use all of that income from the spouse to qualify for the mortgage and their assets, their income, all of their information. Now, the thing is the veteran still has to be on the actual mortgage itself because we need to use their benefits. Now, I guess that's the downside to something like that is that if the veteran has additional debt that the spouse does not, then potentially you could be lowering what you can qualify for. But again, everyone's financial picture is different. Sometimes people want to use two sets of income to qualify. Sometimes it's just one, but again, depending on the situation, those are all things that you kind of have to be able to factor in on that piece. And just like one nugget of information that I didn't know up until recently is that if the veteran is solely on the mortgage and the spouse is just on the title, if something were to happen to the veteran, if they pass away, then the lender is going to typically foreclose on the house within 30 days of that person passing away, unless the spouse can refinance the home into their own property, into their own name. So that's why it's kind of from a life estate planning purposes. That's something you should think about. And you can also put a VA home loan in a trust, right? So we did a whole video around that. So you guys can check that out on the channel. You need to know what that looks like because it is definitely a major financial factor for a lot of people. Now, one thing you do want to control is credit and budgeting, right? No matter what lenders tell you, as far as like with the different products and everything that's available to you, the way that a loan is priced is going to be based on your credit, right? So if you're wanting to get the best deal possible, then focus on having the best credit score possible. And with that, your financial position, right? The VA loan doesn't technically have a minimum credit score requirement, but but they're going to want something there in place. The worse the credit, the lower the credit, should I say, because life decisions happen, so it really shouldn't be worse. But the lower the credit score, the higher the fees, the higher the interest rates. The higher the credit score, the lower the interest rate, and you have almost no fees, which is kind of crazy to me, but that's just how it works. VA also looks at debt to income ratios slightly, but primarily they look at what's called residual income. That's like your net income you look at. Again, we did a whole video around that because you really need to understand that piece to it. And then you also just want to be able to make sure that you have savings and emergency funds. It costs money to buy a house. It costs money to move. If you guys want to if you want to buy a condo, it's also super easy to purchase one with the VA home loan. That's going to be a video coming up recently. It's going to be coming up soon, so you guys can check that out and let me know what you think. But a lot of veterans really, when they're going to school, buying a bigger home, that one from a resale value makes sense, and two from a room the house hacking of having roommates, they pay you, they're basically paying for the mortgage, you live in for free while you're in school. You have an asset that's appreciating, plus it's being paid down by somebody else's money. That's what you do when you are renting a property. You are paying someone else's mortgage, they're building equity, and you're paying their mortgage down, and they basically have a free asset. Free, I say that loosely because there's definitely costs associated with home ownership. You definitely need to understand that. So please hit the like and subscribe button. If you guys got questions, please, actually I learned how to talk. Please feel free to reach out to me. Again, a link in the description down below. We're happy to help. If you want to do presentations for your school, we do a ton of that stuff. So I'll catch you guys soon. You have a good day.